3, 2, 1. I'll call the meeting to order and request an approval of the minutes of our previous meeting. Motion made by Supervisor Wood, second by Bud. Any discussion, amendments, changes? All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. All right, I guess we're going to go in the order we're listed on the board. So it's all about you, Mike. It actually will be.
Yeah, that's for the cameras, for the conference room.
Well, that camera's over your head.
Can we start with new or pending?
You do what you want to do.
Under new, requesting a resolution to enter into a contract with Rivera's Corporation. It's a company we've done network consulting with for several years. We need a purchase order in place to meet the purchasing requirements, so that's the resolution I'm requesting today.
You wanna?
I'll
Okay.
make a motion.
Motion by Evelyn. And seconded by Edna. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. And your referrals?
Then the pending thing I was asked last month to look at possibly doing the recordings in the boardroom. And so we put a camera on a pole and walked around, tried to come up with some different options. And so my diagram, all the colored lines on it, you could look at it and kind of ignore the colored lines. The rectangles just represent where the tables are. And what we kind of found that is if we put a center line across where the longest tables are, and we could put a camera on either side of the room, it would pick up the opposite table. So then I would put the color lines on to show where a camera goes and what it would pick up. And then putting 2 cameras in the center would pick up the farthest points. So we could actually put 4 cameras in there and have when it's recorded, you'd actually have all 4 screens on there at once. You'd see the entire meeting at once. So it would be an identical setup to here where it's just a push of a button, nobody's got to move a camera or anything. We would have to buy a DVR, which is $250, the camera's for $160, and some miscellaneous parts. So just under $500 would be enough to do it. With that.
So the view, when you're watching it on YouTube, you're going to have 4 screens on there?
It would be, you would see a single screen, but that screen would be
Right.
broken up into 4 screens. You would see the entire thing all at once. And it left it to be like just a passive system, just a push of a button. Nobody's got to move cameras and pan and tilt and all those things.
Well, I've seen some sites with live cameras where you can control it from your PC or whatever device you're using.
Yeah, there's those types of cameras. We were trying to make something where we didn't have to have an additional person in charge of, moving around to catch up. Make it a simple process.
So, Rachel?
With the cameras, can you talk a little bit about the audio? I know one of the complaints we've heard from people with YouTube in this room until you've updated the microphones was that it was very difficult to hear when people would talk. Do you foresee that being a problem?
It's going to be the same thing as in here. If people aren't speaking to the microphone, it's not going to pick it up. Or if you have a soft voice, when Paul talks, it doesn't. I have to turn mine down when he talks, but then when other people talk, depending on who it is, the level goes up and down. We have the same audio system in there as in here, so we'll get good audio as long as the microphones are there. But if somebody stands up to talk and they're not near a microphone, it's going to be the same thing.
So those microphones in front of us, so long as we talk into those, but in terms of the public when they speak, is there a microphone on that podium?
Yes.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So that shouldn't be. And someone watching from home, does it have the ability, like say I want to click on whatever of those 4 screens to look at someone a little bit better? Does that,
No,
do they have that capability, or it's just broken into 4?
It's going to be 4. I mean, you have the
Okay.
regular YouTube size, or you expand it to your full screen, but it's always the 4,
Okay.
not breaking them up.
Got you.
I almost think, Mike, that depending on the device that you watch it on, I get different levels of volume. Yeah.
Yeah, and for people using it at home, when you have audio, there's some people don't even realize they have 2 different volume controls on their computer. and depending on, you know, if they have powered speakers, non-powered speakers. So we're pumping audio in good, assuming the microphones are grabbing it, but then at home, there, you know, people have different issues that are there with their stuff.
Okay.
That way you provide makeup and so forth.
Again, you must think a lot of people watching.
I was gonna say, do you have any idea of how many people are really, like, tuning into, like, these committee meetings, for example? I'm curious, you
It
know?
does keep, counts, but I don't have any right now. I can get those and send them out so we are aware of what they are.
Just curious.
It should
I mean,
show you on the YouTube
It does.
page.
I don't ever go on YouTube, I guess that's why I'm asking.
Well, I think Jim does.
Listen, I don't have time for that, my goodness.
And you only want the brown and yellow M&Ms in your, in the green room, right? Do you want any action from this committee today? Do you want us to give support to this, or what are you looking for?
I guess it's up to the committee what they wanna do, if they want us to go forward installing it, or,
I make a motion, we go forward with it and refer it to finance for a source of funding. I'm assuming it would be contingency, but I defer to finance. But I'd make a motion that we move forward with it.
I'll second it.
Well, Rachel beat you to it, Jim.
That's okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Anything else?
and then just the last minute thing, I was asked yesterday that, there was some interest on the backside of this, some interest in, having a document reader. It's a device where if somebody's, like me, I was having all these arrows and wanted to point it out, I could go up and stick it on this device, and my piece of paper or whatever I stick there would show up on the screen or the TV, and you would see whatever I see there. So I looked one up, and the cost of this device is $570, you know, if that's something that we're interested in doing or not.
This is sort of a glorified overhead projector.
Yeah, from the days of the overhead projector and transparencies, now it's just got a camera, so if you stick a book or a paper or something, then it can be shared up on the screen.
Yeah, I was the one that suggested something like this, but I was able to buy a little camera for about $150, an HD camera. So most of this is just the other part, is it wireless too or something?
No, because this is, we have all HDMI connections over here. This has our HDMI in and out, so that takes care of all the switching as opposed to buying another switch. Cause I looked at like buying pieces and parts to make one, by the time we bought all the parts, and this one has, you know, it can be angled and focus and all those things there, but it's the switching and cabling that's all kind of built into one spot.
See, in schools and classrooms, we have distance learning, and a teacher can put the document up and then it shows overhead and you can show, because yesterday when we were, I forgot what the issue was, but, I think, Evelyn, you pointed something out and on one of the pieces of paper, and Jeff goes, oh yeah, and I couldn't,
Oh,
wasn't able to.
John was looking for,
Oh, right.
where's some, where's
And
some
I
was.
thought it would be if Jeff or somebody could point to it so everybody can follow along, that would be, make it easier for those of us that are challenged.
And what I found was just based on, you know, a quick look yesterday, if, you know, best I could find since yesterday, if we're looking for maybe wireless or if there's other alternatives, I can, you know, take more time to look up other options. But I guess this gives us a starting point of what it looks like and what the price range might be.
Is this something that would be portable to the main boardroom as well?
No, right now, I say yes and no. It is if we have enough to grab the cabling, so I guess today it would be. If we think ahead of time, we have all the cabling in place.
I think, you know, like with the courtroom thing, I think, I don't know if that is applicable or not, because they were able to point using the thing, but I still think in terms of the quality of discussion, that you need to have something like this, you know, if 500 is, is there things like this online that you can buy used, or?
Yep, and then there's, you know, definitely, you know, eBay exists, and there was a lot of used ones there.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we'll give it another month and let Mike
Yeah.
go and have a look and see what he can find and come back to us.
Yep. Get some more options between wireless and used and new and.
Would you need to do it quickly though, if that comes up? I mean, say you see one, would you need to purchase it then, or is it gonna be gone by the time you come back?
Most likely, it could be gone. I mean, if there was a price point everybody was comfortable with, that I did find it, we should, approve that.
I guess I'm just a little confused. Are we duplicating what, technology that we already have when we put the screens up? And, I've certainly seen enough presentations in here where we're using our laser pointer and saying, okay, what about that area, or?
Well, those are usually PowerPoint type presentations you're talking about.
This is in addition
Okay.
to what we already have. Like, that's the situation where somebody comes in, and I said, oh, I'm looking at this, maybe someone doesn't understand it, then
You
walk
just
around
throw it
the point,
under.
I could go up here and say, I'm looking at my
Right.
fingers here, my camera's
Right.
looking this way.
But is it gonna be like, I don't mean to sound rude when I say this, so I mean it just towards me.
Mhm.
Will it be idiot-proof? Like, would I be able to turn it on and use it?
It's very easy to use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like turn on the laptop?
There's one in the sheriff's office training room, it's been there for years, and just little charts say, push this button, turn it on, and
So
once you
any of
see
us
it,
could go
yeah.
on and throw it.
Yeah.
I'm really not very good with IT things, so that's why I'm asking.
But Rachel, instead of having a digital document, you just take, whatever someone brings in, you just put there, and
Yeah, that's great.
so. Sure.
Yes, Supervisor Brock. Are you requesting action on this too, or you just
I guess-
general approval of this committee?
Yeah, requesting direction of how we wanna proceed, whether, it sounds like we wanna look at some different options, but if I find a good deal, to go ahead and get it, so what would be a good deal? $570 brand new for something like this, and I would think half or less would be considered a good deal.
Don't fall for the buy it now button if it looks too good to be true.
Yeah, I
I
would
say
think.
go half price. Get a sale.
Yeah.
it's
Flip a
good
coupon.
to- I think use your judgment,
Yeah.
and if you're good at saving costs anyway, so. If you see something, to me anyway, if you find something that you think is worth it, I would say, but I don't have do we need to give them authority or something? How do we?
Yeah, Mike could not act to buy this unless, this committee made a resolution for a certain amount, and then it would have to be approved by the board.
So we couldn't purchase it anyway then?
Not right immediately, no, you'd have to go through the process, and, presumably you'd need some money out of finance, I guess, too, because Mike wouldn't have money for this in your budget, would you, or would you?
I mean, $250, I'm sure we can squeeze it out somewhere.
Okay.
I mean, Jim, you could always bid on it on eBay, so
Yeah, okay.
Let's donate it.
there you go, put the coupon on
I could
there.
just see Mike and Jim sitting in different rooms and
Bidding
County
each
and-
other.
That one's for sale.
Yeah.
bidding each other out
Go
of
for it.
business.
Do you have one at home, Jim?
I'll make a resolution that, Mike be allowed to purchase if it doesn't exceed
$250.
$250.
Do you have a second? Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Time to go shopping. Almost.
Gonna bid against somebody called Jay Rock.
Huh?
He's gonna bid against somebody called
Yeah.
Jay Rock. Okay, on to purchasing. I only have 3 items for today. The first is authorization to attend our annual convention. Usually Jason and I both go, but we didn't see enough new material that we thought spending, $250 apiece would, be as good of a value this year. So I'm just requesting authorization for myself to go. It's in Albany this year, and I'll be taking a personal vehicle, because it doesn't, end until usually around 6 o'clock at night.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Supervisor Wood, second by Jim. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
The second item is a request to, become a member of the National Joint Powers Alliance. This is a national cooperative that's gonna give us a lot of opportunity to purchase things that are, bid on a national level. So the volume is much greater, the prices should be better. I don't have access to the pricing until we become members, but we do have some departments that are interested in using this as soon as possible.
One example is mowers for the airport. We also know that tires are no longer on state contract, but there's a Goodyear contract, that we could avail ourselves of. I did include the application form, which is pretty simple. The 12-step process that Minnesota goes through, or whoever they've designated to do the bid. And thing I didn't hand out, but there's a list of the types of contracts that are available to us. And it ranges from Parks and Rec equipment to highway equipment, food service equipment. There's a huge, I think I attached it to everybody's agenda at the end. Does anybody have any questions?
Motion made by Peter, by Jim. Any discussion from the committee?
Did I miss it? Is there a cost?
There is no
Okay.
cost.
Thank you.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
And the final item is just adopting the 2015 purchasing policy, which we're required to do by law every year. I sent it out, all the changes were in red. Hopefully they were pretty straightforward. It has been reviewed by Paul Dusick and Martin. They questioned me on a few things, and I hope I answered their questions appropriately. And we pretty much made it, made those changes that they requested, and that's it.
Is the purchasing policy online?
It is. It's on the purchasing website.
Motion made by Supervisor Brock. Can I get a second? Second by Peter. Discussion, thoughts? All in favor? Aye. Well, that's done.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask, Julie, could we do the foreclosure mailings now, or is that something that you want to do at another meeting?
You can do that now. I have your recommendation. So.
Okay. Is it okay if we, it's not exactly on the item, but there is what we did this year is we went out to bid for mailing assistance with the foreclosures. As you know, there's a tremendous amount of work that has to be done, tremendous amount of postage, et cetera. We returned to the idea this year of having that done by an outside source. Julie, together with our office, put together some specifications. We went out to bid. We got one bid. It was from Mailings Made Easy, Inc. We've reviewed that bid and reviewed it with Julie. More specifically, Shelley's reviewed it with Julie. I've reviewed it with Shelley. And we like what we see. We think this will be in the range of between, annually it comes in between 15 and 18,000 is usually what we're incurring in these costs. But remember, we get this back through the foreclosure process. Typically, we get it back. And certainly for the last couple of years, we've gotten it back. So they were the sole bidder, and we'd like to get this going. We don't have any immediate mailings that are necessary, but certainly as we get closer to spring, we come upon a rather large mailing that has to go out. So we'd like to have the contract in place.
What's your pleasure?
Make a motion.
Motion by Evelyn, second by Edna to accept Mailing Made Easy bid. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Hey, children, just come up with like, I know, a company had reached somehow, yeah, I'm like, I have no idea, and I forget who sent me to you and that whole process, but it was probably the quickest thing that I've seen done at the county, so I appreciate that.
Well, we try to get any information, to the department to have, different vendors to pull from, and we do the same when we get new vendors for them, because they have a lot of publications.
Some of the stuff I do.
Actually pulled up themselves.
Yeah. No, I was happened to be at a Rotary Club. Said, how, where did DCC go with their publishing, their I'm like, I have no idea. So, I just wanted to tell you thank you. That was awesome.
Proceed.
Good morning, thank you. I'm sure you all know our new Democratic Commissioner, Elizabeth Beth McLaughlin. Thank you. What we want to do is be sure and share with you the maps that we've been working on since January for the redistricting within the County of Warren and the towns. The maps that you have are only for changes that are being made. By law, we had to make these maps official by February 15th, which we did, and we put in our minutes that they could be tweaked if necessary. So we're working right now with our GIS department, who is absolutely wonderful. I have to tell you, they are just the best staff to be working with. This is a huge project. We're rolling over probably 25 to 30,000 people. We couldn't do it without them because we have parameters that we have to work within. They've been great helping us establish this. We've also worked with NTS, which is our software vendor for our voter registration program. They've been very helpful as well. We have had to, reach out to them a couple of times. So we just wanted to make sure that you were aware of what's happening because they will be official come April 1st. Right now we're in the process of rolling over our voters so that we can have our numbers ready to upload to the State Board of Elections for March 31st, which is our deadline.
All right, Beth, this isn't gonna change any of the polling places, is it?
No, our polling places are staying the same. The only two locations that we're looking at possibly amending are Lafayette Firehouse, which is Ward 2, Districts 3 and 5. We are hoping to be able to bring them into the activity center with the rest of the ward. And then we have Ward 1, Districts 4 and 6, which is in the Human Services Building. And we're hoping to be able to move them to the Bay Ridge Firehouse along with the rest of the district, with the exception of North Queensbury. We did leave that alone because that's such a remote location that it really would have been an imposition on those voters to have been relocated. But other than that, everyone else is staying in their same polling location. That was a major consideration.
So the day-to-day, you might say practicality of the average voter coming in, it should be certainly, the polling location is transparent since nothing changes. From the perspective of them then coming through the door to identify and get recognized, that may be, I'm guessing, maybe more of an issue in terms of just maybe the paperwork, the process, the procedure, or not.
Well,
It should be easier for the voter.
Okay.
Exactly, because we've consolidated neighborhoods now. What they used to do is when you reached a certain number, you had to create a new district. So there was kind of a hodgepodge, so people didn't always know their district. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting these maps up in a larger scale at the entrance of the polling location with the street lists underneath it, so that the voter would be able to immediately tell whereabouts in the town or whereabouts in the ward they live, and then be able to go to the color-coded to the color-coded desk, which is going to have their name in the poll book. So actually, we're thinking that this will actually make it an easier, more user-friendly experience for the voter.
I think ultimately you're absolutely right.
Well, that's our goal. So it's about the voter.
So you're going from 70 to 40?
44.
44. Any idea what the cost savings are there?
Well, just in inspectors alone and training and staffing is about $17,000. Until we go through a year, we can't give you exact ballots are going to be less.
Okay.
I just have two quick questions. One, will you still have the table when people walk in and they're directed? I think the charts are great, but I've found that we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from having a helper kind of there.
Especially in bigger wards, Kingsbury 3,
Right.
4.
and I understand a lot of this is being done, in large part to reduce costs. So my question is, you have, people that come and they work the polls all day long, right? Is there any, are you looking at maybe doing a couple different shifts, or are you prohibited from that? And if so, have we utilized, whether it be interns from the colleges or high schools, to volunteer for any of that, or is that not possible, even for that helper position?
Well, the only problem is New York mandates that every one of our election inspectors have a training class.
Okay.
So if any student, and we would love it, we've reached out to the high schools, we've reached out to the college, prior to right now. And honestly, we haven't gotten any kind of, positive actions from either students and or,
Really?
yeah, they.
Not one?
No, and I've gone to the school, probably every year since I've been here, so probably 15 or 16 years, and made that offer. It's just very hard because the schools don't want to have their students missing an entire day of class. They'd have to miss a day and a half because they do have to have that mandatory training. And our college students, a lot of our students aren't actually from here. So that's not something that they're interested in doing as far as the college piece goes. We would love it because, you know, the state encourages it, and we've always encouraged it. You know, we've reached out to the college, we've gone to classes there, we've gone to classes in our high schools, and it's hard because it's a 16-hour day and a full 2.5-hour training session before you can even walk in the door to be an inspector.
And that 2.5-hour training session, is that something that a student would have to pay for themselves, or is that covered?
Oh, we pay them to
You
come.
pay it all?
Yeah, we pay it's about $10 an hour, so we pay $25 for the class itself, and then we pay $160 for election day, which is a 16-hour day, and we pay $100 for primary day, which is a 10-hour day.
And you're unable to split those shifts, is what you're saying?
It's hard because you need the continuity of signing the opening tape and signing the closing tape.
Okay.
In an emergency, you can. Right now, we have to have 4 people at each of our tables. So, you know, the numbers that we're dealing with are sufficient. And then if all of a sudden you double that, you know, the problem is going to be if someone can't do it, we say to them, if you can find a buddy who's agreeable to come in and spell you, who's had a class, we'll certainly work with that. But for us to try to staff twice what we're trying to staff, now we're lucky if we have inspectors as it is, a full staff of inspectors for an election day.
So what I'm hoping is that maybe Mr. Lehman would love to put his feelers out to the community, because we're seeing now students that are applying for college, we're actually seeing scholarship opportunities available, and college is really looking favorably upon students who have some type of experience in an election campaign, and not necessarily whether it be Republican, Democrat, Conservative, Independent. They're just asking, have you ever been involved in a political campaign? And that's something that students are filling out on their SAT and ACT checklist forms, and their guidance counselors are looking for. So I find I have a lot of students who want to get involved with our local political process. Perhaps this is a way that some of those students that necessarily don't want to be particularly affiliated with one candidate could be affiliated with the overall process of our election system, which would be great, and especially if it's needed, you know.
It's absolutely needed. I mean, we're scrambling the day before an election to plug in holes, because unfortunately, you know, family emergencies come up, illnesses come up, and, you know, I know personally, as far as my list of inspectors, if I don't lose at least 25 for a general election, then I'm having a good year.
Really?
Yeah, I can lose that many.
They call out until, you know, 5 o'clock in the morning of election day.
Wow.
And or else we'll find that there's a hole somewhere where someone didn't show up. So, and again, because the state mandates that whoever it is who is acting as an election inspector have a training class. I mean, we have to document if somebody does go in and serve who hasn't had it. So, you know, we can't make that a policy. That has to be really an exception to the rule.
And can they take that class online, or does it have to be in person?
No, it has to be first person.
You tell state to get up with a...
Well, we do the training class. We do that, yeah. And we want them in
there.
Exactly.
But you would do more if you had them.
I mean, you know, we held classes, you know, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We bring people in, and I mean, we do one-on-one if we have to get somebody trained so that they can go out on election day morning. You know, we're certainly more than happy if students, you know, if they have a certain time that works for them, we will work around it. We make no bones about it, because I have two voting systems in my office all the time. So, you know, anytime someone is available, we're more than happy to have them do it. And I laugh because we have reached out. We always do every September. We send a little notice to the Post-Star and any other media that will take it and look for people who might be interested in being inspectors.
Word of mouth is the best
Yeah.
advertising.
So,
Sometimes the newspaper and radio is,
Peter?
I just have a quick question, just trying to understand maybe the methodology here. If you take Bud's Ward, for example, in Glens Falls, Ward 3, the Route 9 becomes a geographical barrier, but near the bottom of that diagram, it juts out to the left there. Now, is that due to the number of voters? Is that really?
Correct.
Okay.
We have
Try to equalize it.
exactly,
Yeah,
we are allowed 1,150 voters per polling location or per district. And, you know, and I think what people forget is these rules were established when you had a lever machine that could only go to 999. So right now, 850, between 850 and 950, they would allow on a single voting machine. Anything over 950, up to as high as 1150, you had to bring in a second machine, and then anything over 1150, you had to create a new district. But we're dealing, and I mean, then it was one person would go in, and they were allowed 3 minutes in the booth. So, I mean, there was a lot that came into consideration. Right now, we have 3 people coming in, taking a ballot, going over to a booth, filling it out, and putting it in through the scanner at each of the districts. So we actually now have as many as 3 people voting at the same time. As far as filling out their ballot goes, of course, they put them into the scanner individually. So election law hasn't yet caught up with the reality of the new voting system. So we do, you know, we're trying to stay within the parameters that the state has given us. And you know, we've done that with the GIS department, you know, we've kept that criteria. So that's why you'll see little juts and things like that. But it, you know, it is a case where right now there is legislation to make an election district 3,000 voters large, which would be wonderful because that would give us all-encompassing as far as some of our towns go, which would be a single ballot, a single district, and they just need to create some language for committees. And that's another thing we want to share is we have shared this with the 3 committees that are in Warren County, which is the Democratic Committee, the Republican Committee, and the Conservative Committee. So they've all seen these, so, you know, they're aware that this is happening, and they're, you know, they're doing what they need to do to be able to accommodate fewer districts.
So these are official maps already? You submitted them last month?
Correct. Well, we'll go in and we'll actually, right now they say proposed, but technically, by law, we had to have a meeting within our board, which is the 2 commissioners, and approve the maps, knowing that if they had to be, they could be tweaked, minor tweaks. Because we did have that February 15th drop dead date that's in election law. And it used to be, again, the law hasn't caught up with the current situation. It used to be the towns would do the redistricting and they would discover, you know, they would decide which neighborhoods went into which district. And then when HAVA came in, that was turned over to the boards, but they never changed the deadline. It used to be the towns had to do it not later than February 15th and then turn it over to the Board of Elections, which would then give us time to review it and decide whether it worked or not. So, you know, that date is still in stone. So that was what we had to go with.
So you don't need any action from this committee?
No, we just wanted to make sure that you were well aware of what was going on, and we sent them out, you know, early enough that I hope everybody had a chance to review them before we actually had our February 15th timeframe.
Kevin?
Reduction in districts, reduction in cost to the community, to the town?
Yes. So that's our goal. And then the other piece that we had on the agenda was approval to go to our 100th anniversary State Board Summer Conference. And unfortunately, we didn't make copies of that because we only just got it, but the chairman has it. And we're staying within the GSA amount, and it's for Beth, myself, and Kim Ross, who is the deputy. And it's to Cooperstown this year. So we would ask permission to be able to go to that conference. We would use a county vehicle.
Motion by Evelyn, second by Peter. Discussion? All in favor? Motion carried. You all done?
We're all set. Yep. Did anybody have any other questions at all?
Thank you.
Mary Beth, I'm gonna email you, 'cause I have a question, but I can talk to
Oh,
you about it
okay.
later.
Absolutely.
And I'll announce it to the college's political
Oh,
science groups
that'd be
too,
great.
to
That'd be
Plattsburgh and
wonderful.
to,
Because I've even, I'm trying to think of her last name. She's,
I do like the idea of Warrensburg voters having under 20,000 votes.
I teach criminal justice, but I'll send it to the dean of both
It'll
schools.
save a lot of
And,
money.
let them know the opportunities
Oh,
and
absolutely.
give them your contact information.
Come all the way down.
no, it's county law.
Give a report.
Yeah, Mary Bell Lyons Jones out of the room. Can I bang this? That's loud. Martin's gonna give a brief overview of our, legal newspaper situation at this point.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Vaslow and I met with, a few weeks back, we met with Dan Alexander and with Tom Randall at my office. And I think based upon that meeting and based upon the information that they provided, which was extraordinary, quite a bit of information, I think we pretty much reached the conclusion that the news enterprise it qualifies and meets the exception for purposes of being an official newspaper, as we have designated for some time. So I think we can put, in my view, we can put that issue behind us, and we'll continue using the news enterprise as an official newspaper as long, together with the Post-Star, as we have been doing. We designate those two newspapers each and every year. And there were some questions, and they answered all of our questions, and again, provided all kinds of information to us. That leads sort of to the next issue, which this committee spent a considerable amount of time on at the last meeting, is, what to do about the law. And you referred it to your legislative committee for review and action. We talked about getting NISAC involved and perhaps listening to some help and support from some other counties. You'll recall the problem with the current law is that tricky language, paid circulation. After the meeting, I actually got a call from Assemblyman Steck, who said that he has a bill that he has sponsored that's in Assembly, and I ran it off the internet, and you all have copies of that. I believe I gave you a copy before. But the bill, which is out there, really no action has been taken on it, would do two things. It would amend the limited liability company law and would also amend the general construction law. Most particularly, or most importantly for this committee's purposes, that bill, if it made its way into law, would amend the general construction definition of newspaper to remove paid circulation, which would give communities quite a bit more flexibility in, using newspapers that are out there. For example, there would be no question in my mind that if that language is removed, the Chronicle would qualify as an official newspaper. No question in my mind. So that's out there, and you've referred the matter to the legislative committee for action and for review and action, if you will. The other change it makes is to the limited liability company law. As you know, Pam has to designate official newspapers as well. This would free up Pam to be able to designate a newspaper that has a general circulation that either publishes on a weekly or a daily basis. So it would give her much more flexibility in choosing the newspapers that she would be able to choose. Right now, because the Post-Star is the only newspaper that meets the definition in the limited liability company law. She uses the Post-Star, and she simply says to whoever else wants to publish in another newspaper, use your newspaper of choice, but you can't designate a second paper because there's no paper in Warren County that meets the definition. Under this revised definition as proposed in this bill, a number of newspapers in Warren County would meet the definitions for purposes of the limited liability company law. So we wanted to give you that update, and I don't think there's any further action that the committee needs to take at this point in time. Again, it's with legislative, and we'll see where it goes.
Peter?
Is there a sponsor needed in the Senate?
There is. According to Assemblyman Steck, there is a sponsor that's needed in the Senate.
Has he reached out to Betty, do you know?
I do not know that.
Can you, write the Chronicle or Mark Frost and explain that to him? Just what you said. I don't know.
Well,
just email and send them a link to the YouTube
Yeah, something to
video.
Okay.
I would do it, except I don't wanna damage your
In terms of time frames, are these typical, 10 o'clock at night, last day in session, it's just attached to 20 other bills and,
I didn't write down the number of years, but I got the impression from Assemblyman Steck that this was actually out there. I could be wrong about this, but I thought there was a bill that was actually out there before he was elected, and then he's taken this over since he's become elected to the Assembly and trying to further this. So that was the understanding that I had. I could be wrong about that. And how it would be adopted, how it could be adopted, I don't know.
All right, thank you, Martin.
You
Ellen,
bet.
you ready?
I think Amy.
I saw Amy there, but I didn't see you on my list.
I believe you have my items in the agenda, right,
Yes.
Joan? I did bring copies. Keeping with the theme of today, I'm just asking for your approval to travel to the New York State Association of Self-Insured Counties Conference, May 6th through 8th in Syracuse. This is the organization, I've been past president, I'm still an officer. The money is in the self-insurance fund, obviously, so I'm just looking for your approval to travel to that.
Motion by Bud, second by Evelyn. Discussion? All in favor? Motion carried.
I think, as you all know, I'm going to be retiring in the next couple of months. So the request that I have today is to begin the process of reorganizing our department, which I'm asking to create and fill a legislative office specialist position. I'd like to get someone in March to start training and taking meeting minutes and so forth. And our plan is I would come back in April with a plan to reorganize and restructure the department going forward. But this would get us started and allow us to get someone on board and start training.
Motion by Evelyn, second by Bud. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
You got it.
Thank you.
Anything else? Rachel?
I'm on a 30-second time frame, he told me before the meeting, so.
I'm generous, you can have
Thank you.
45.
Give me
Yeah.
45.
All right, I've learned to talk very, very quick and get right to the point. 14 months ago, I brought up the issue of Aflac, and I know that, Paul, you've been looking into it. We've gone back and forth with some emails. I'm not just saying it because I'm, like, limping around in a boot and I recognize what that duck would do to help anyone in the county. But I am saying it because, again, 14 months ago, we brought up this issue. It was something that, I think Amy left, but Amy said years ago we looked at this as a county. Since that time, I've come to find out that it actually could benefit our county a little bit financially, but more importantly, it would benefit our employees that would have the option of looking at a program like this. And I just wondered, you know, can we get a hardcore, like, I know it's not at the top of priorities with the county, but if we could kind of look at this in the next few months and see if we could come to some type of a resolution, just to give us some more information about it and see if it's possible, I think that's my 30 seconds.
Mr. Chairman, I can answer that.
Go right ahead.
We did get the contact information you gave us, I think it was right around the holidays, December, January, and it's just been a matter of trying to coordinate it with Gretchen. As you said, there's a lot of things going on, but I see no reason why we can't get to this over the next couple of months.
That'd be great, thank you.
Anything else?
And I just want to be clear, it has nothing to do with the boot on my foot or the last 6 weeks of me limping around here, but it does make me think about,
You're gonna be wearing that
the
boot
duck.
long after you don't need it, aren't you? People opening doors and,
I think you have a pre-existing condition you're out of luck anyway with Aflac,
not
but,
anymore. Tom?
I just wanted to mention that, Dan Alexander made a pledge that, any legal ads that, Denpub receives on behalf of, the North Creek Enterprise would also be placed at no charge to the county in the, Adirondack Journal, so to, lighten the coverage. And I think he's already put that into, effect, but it's, a pledge to do that for
There's no legal issues with that, are there?
No, we discussed that. There's no, that's a business decision that they can make. The Adirondack Journal is not recognized as a official newspaper of the county, but if they want to afford that coverage to us, I don't think that there's any issue with that. We can accept it. That's fine. We're not paying for it.
Right, and it's not a result of any action on
It's
the
not a-
county part.
We didn't request it. This was something that they volunteered and offered. I would add, sort of, as an aside, that if Assemblyman Steck's bill makes it through and becomes law, the News Enterprise and the Adirondack Journal, in my view, would also meet the legal definition of newspaper at that point in time, as well as probably any other number of newspapers in Warren County. So when I mentioned that the Chronicle would meet the definition, I don't think there's any question that these other two newspapers, the Journal and the News Enterprise, would. And irrespective of any grandfathered status that the News Enterprise might have.
Anything else? Well, you just wanna sit here, somebody wanna make a motion to adjourn? Motion by, no? Yeah, this is a more comfortable chair, I don't think it'll fall over, but I'm not gonna push it.
Oh, Bob,